I'm going to show you how I pipe pine cones onto a cupcake. Now the colour I've used is Pro Gel Dark Brown with some Sugar Flare Caramel Ivy, and I've just mixed those together. For the piping tips I'm using a 1R, which is a large round, and I'm using a number 80, which is this curved shaped tip. Now it's this curve on the outside that's going to create the spine shape. So with this 1R tip, you want to tighten up your bag, and I'm going to pipe a mound onto the cupcake. So touch down on the cupcake, squeeze slowly, and just lift that tip up really slowly. When it's the height you want it, stop squeezing and lift off. And you'll have a small mound on the cupcake like this. Now take up the number 80 tip, and you want to keep this curve here on the outside. So tighten up your bag. And if your buttercream soft, it might come out the end like this. Just wipe it off on a piece of paper towel. Now I like to start at the top of the cone. So all I'm going to do is touch it with the tip, squeeze and lift up. Turn the cake, touch the mound, squeeze slowly and lift up. You're only doing small little squeezes to create some spines on the cone. So touch the mound, squeeze and lift. Turn the cake, touch the mound, squeeze, lift. Touch the mound, squeeze, lift. Keep turning the cake like this and putting on little spines, getting lower and lower as you go around the cake. So you can see I'm coming underneath each one each time, and it's creating the texture of the pine cone. And if you come in between each one as well, as much as you can, you'll get even more texture in your pine cone. You can see how it's forming from the top. Now the angle that you put these spines on will determine how open or closed your pine cone looks. So it's completely up to you. If you want a big pine cone, pull the angle out a little bit more. If you want it to look more closed and tall like the thin ones, then just pull upwards a little bit more. But as long as you keep going round like this and come underneath each layer each time, you'll create the texture and the look of the pine cone. As you come to the bottom of the cone, you can make your strokes a little bit longer. You want just a little bit more buttercream on the bottom because that's going to support the mound that you've made. As it's obviously getting heavier because you're adding more buttercream to it from the top. So when you get to the bottom, just make those spines a little bit longer so that it gets the support it needs to stay up. Just keep having a look at your cone to get the shape that you want. I like to make sure that I come right to the edge of the cupcake case so that I know I've covered it up. Just make it nice and round. And then when you're happy with the shape of it, you've got your first pine cone. Now I'm going to add 2 more pine cones onto here, and I'm going to do them at slightly different sizes. So take up the number 1R again and tighten up your bag, and then I'm going to make another 2 mounds. So we'll have one here, a little bit smaller, and then maybe a medium sized one here. And you can see I've come quite close to the edge of the cupcake here. Now take up your number 80 tip again, tighten up your bag, make sure you've got that rounded part on the outside. Oops, get rid of that. And then start from the top and just touch that mound, small squeeze and lift up, And then keep just turning the cupcake and going around the same way. Now if you haven't got much buttercream in your bag like me, when you get to the middle you might have to move a couple of your fingers out of the way so you don't squash your pine cone. And this one's a bit smaller, so you can see I'm pulling more upright. Whoops, that one didn't stick. Just wipe that off. If the buttercream doesn't touch down on something, it will just come off on the piping tip like that. So maybe I'll come in like this. That's better. So turn your cake and use your hand in any way that you need to create the shapes that you need to create. One more in there. Alright. Now for this last one, start at the top. Just gently touch that mound and make a little spine. And just keep working around until you've got your final pine cone. I always associate pine cones with Christmas. I know they come out earlier in the year, but as soon as I see them, I think Christmas. And you can make them any shade of brown that you want. Oops, just wangle one in there. Will it stick? Yeah. Oh, get on. Sometimes you can wiggle them on like that. Now I've got a little bit of buttercream on the back of my tip there, so I'm just going to wipe it off. Always keep your piping tip nice and clean, and you can't spoil anything that you've done. Let's just come up to the edge here. Alright, so you've got 3 little pine cones on your cupcake. And they're all different sizes, so they look realistic. So now I'm taking a number 3 round, and I've got some of that Pro Gel Gooseberry Green in here. And I'm going to put some pine on the bottom of the cupcake to cover up those gaps. So just touch down on the cake, squeeze and lift. Touch down, squeeze and lift. And if you sort of flick it at the top when you finish squeezing, you'll create spiky tops to these. So touch, squeeze, lift. And you just go around filling in that gap. And obviously you've got your crumb coat on, so it doesn't matter if there's a couple of gaps, nobody's going to notice. Turn the cake. And I'm not making these little spines too tall. They're varying lengths, they're not all the same. I'm putting them on very randomly, there's no uniform to them, and that's what gives you that more realistic look. You don't want to hide your pine cones, so maybe somewhere in the middle. Because the buttercream is nice and soft, it's coming out of this small piping tip really easily for me. I'm not having to really put in any effort here. So there's the base covered with pine. And they look really cute as they are, but because I've got some red here, I'm going to add some berries. So this is a number 4 round piping tip. So just tighten up your bag. And I'm not going to add too many, but I'll just add some for a splash of colour. gives it a bit more of a festive look when there's some red on there, I think. So just wherever you think a little berry would look nice, just to break up the green a bit, just pop one in. So I'm just touching down, squeezing a little bit out of the bag, and I'm not moving the tip, I'm just squeezing a little bit out. Stop squeezing and come off. So touch, squeeze, stop, and that's it. That's how you form your little berries. So there we are, they're my festive pine cones with fir and berries.